Hi, I'm Tracy Stafford, President of Women Democrats of Sacramento County, and we are here today at the Changemakers Youth Panel. The Changemakers Youth Panel is a group of women between the ages of 14 to 25 who are activists in their community. If you are interested in Women Democrats of Sacramento County, which is a 65-year-old club, the oldest Democratic club in the state of California, you can follow us on Facebook at Sacramento Women Dems, and you can also find us on the web at sacramentowomendems.org.
Introducing our panel moderator tonight. I'm very honored to introduce her and just also honored to have such a dynamic group of young women who are pushing for change in our communities to speak tonight. But I want to start by introducing our moderator, Paula Villescaz. Paula, you may know her. She's Assistant Secretary for the State of California with Health and Human Services. But what makes her really special to this group is that she is the Vice President of the San Juan Unified School District. Paula herself started off as a young change maker and continues to be a change maker. And all of her work, she finds time to walk for candidates, to speak for candidates, to help fundraise, but to also really be a voice for young people as a school board member, but for young people who are marginalized. And so, Paula, we're just excited to have you be a part of this panel tonight. Thank you.
That was such a kind introduction. Thank you very much, Mayal. It's an honor to be here. I probably attended my first Women Dems meeting 14 years ago, so I'm about half my life in. So it's really a pleasure to be here. I'm going to invite the panelists to go ahead and come up and join me right now. So I'm going to introduce these wonderful young women by name, and then I'm going to pass off the mic. My goal would be to not do a lot of the talking this evening. I'm going to leave that up to all of you. We've got Jessica Riestra with March for Our Lives. Go ahead and wave. Here we go. We've got Shelby Weiss with Campus Violence Prevention with Weave. We've got Trinity Mosby with Black Student Union from Laguna Creek High. Diana Cruz Bravo, an American River College student activist. And Ashley Endean from St. Francis High School. And with that, I'm going to kick off the evening with just tell us about you and tell us about your organization. And I will kind of keep a short eye on time, but also if one of the other organizers can, I know the meeting ends at 8, but I'm going to watch my owl for kind of some signals. And I'm going to pass it off to you, Ashley.
All right, so I'm Ashley Endean. I'm 16 years old. It's okay. And I'm a junior at St. Francis High School, and while I don't have an organization, I do have a lot of opinions. So I, before St. Francis, went to multiple types of schools, from public to charter to private. So I've seen a lot of different cultures and environments and diversity, and I just want to talk about that and connect that to what's going on. So, hello.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Diana Cruz Bravo, as she said. So I did go with the American River College student just because I do have a lot that I do. For the last 4 years, active Brown Issues member in our communities, working with disadvantaged communities and social issues having to do with like the school to prison pipeline. I dedicated about 2 years of research with the whole school to prison pipeline for the AP Capstone program as well. After high school, I went to the California Public Utilities Commission. I am currently a student intern for Commissioner Marta Guzman Aceves at the California Public Utilities Commission, and I am currently working with the California Air Resource Board, working with the AB 617, so that's more environmental issues, and also business owner and also marketing advisor for my parents' family business. So I got a good variety of things. So if you guys have questions after too, you're welcome to.
You said you're a business owner. What business?
I started in high school when I was 15, just hair, makeup, nails, and photography, but that was kind of just my way to help my family.
Hello, y'all. My name is Jessica Riestra, and I'm originally from Orange County, California, and I'm a recent transfer student to Sacramento State. I've done a lot of activism, more so in Orange County because I lived there my whole life. But right now, something that I'm really working upon is March for Our Lives. We actually created a statewide chapter based on the national organization. And it's very impressive because we have about 1,000 active students and it's continuing to rise. So we have students all around California like working alongside one another on different initiatives that impact our communities, specifically their areas. I just recently became the co-director of March for Our Lives California, so I take charge of all Northern California and the different initiatives that are happening up here. So I really am all about empowering our youth, especially because our youth goes from the age of 10 to the age of 24. There's no one older than 24 years old in our team. And that within itself demonstrates the diversity in the youth, that how much this encompasses and how active our youth wants to be, especially with everything that's been occurring. We've been having such a strong base and such an amazing team. And we're hoping that we could be able to continue to increase our amount of students that are active, seeing that we get about 200 people each day coming to us and telling us that they want to be active. So it just demonstrates that California is ready for youth to take over.
Hello everyone, my name is Shelby Weiss. I work for WEAVE in Sacramento, which is the local rape crisis center and domestic violence shelter. I just want to start off by saying I love that 24 is still considered youth, because that means I'm still a youth, which is great, because I'm feeling very adult right now. But my main job is campus violence prevention. So I go from all the way to elementary school level children to college level, doing different prevention programs. And then I also just recently piloted this program for Sacramento County, which I have a meeting with the city of Sacramento and the state of California next week, woohoo, to make it mandated for bars, clubs, and pubs anywhere that serves alcohol to have mandated training on bystander intervention for things like sexual assault, sexual harassment, and domestic violence. Thank you. It's called Safe Night Out, so check it out. ABC just did a story on it. So that's my main job. I work a lot with our youth survivors of trafficking, child sexual assault, and teen dating violence as well. So I do a lot of prevention programs in different schools throughout Sacramento County as well.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Trinity. I'm a little nervous because it's my first time on a panel, but I'm a freshman at Laguna Creek High School in Elk Grove, and the organization, I guess you could say, is Laguna Creek BSU. I do a lot of work that revolves around race and just having minorities gain exposure to different jobs out in the field, so that, because I feel like representation is important. So for me, yeah, that's pretty much what I do.
Thank you all. What a wonderful panel. How exciting. And I do have to apologize to you, Ashley, as someone who's had my name mispronounced the entirety of my life. I missed an E when I was transcribing, so I apologize. So for our second question, a little bit of a lead into this is that there's nothing that I find more exciting than working with people who are passionate about what they do. That makes all the difference. The what doesn't really matter. It's really the why. And so my next question for you is, what motivates you, and how do you motivate others to buy into your cause? I'm going to, are you guys okay with us going from left to right, or would you prefer a surprise situation? Okay, we're gonna go from my left to right.
So things that get me involved, with anything in general, rather it be politics or an event or any other sort of thing, I get involved through the arts and clothes, music. I think a great way for fundraising and spreading awareness, whether it be political or racial or gender, just making young people aware, is through things that they're interested in. And for example, the Leukemia Lymphoma Society I have a lot of friends who participated in it, which I did not. If you don't know what it is, it's a fundraiser for children with leukemia. And they threw a fashion show and raised $182,000. So definitely a great way to get young people involved is through fashion, music, art, because that just surrounds the culture basically, and it gives people an opportunity to express themselves, whether it be their sexuality, their race, their gender. So I think that definitely is a great motivator for young people.
That's impressive. That's really impressive. So I guess I can say what motivates me. I come from, first generation going to college from a Latino household. My father, growing up, he worked in the fields. My mom, she worked since she was 14, and just very go-getters, you can say. They're definitely my motivation, but a lot of the issues in our communities, especially for Latinos, is, I can say, immigration. That's a big issue that I'm very passionate about. And I guess what I can say into what motivates me is wanting to see change, wanting to see the same opportunities for our gente, the opportunities that we don't see necessarily for everyone. Yes, we have DACA. Yes, we have other programs, but there's so many other resources that still aren't available. And the way, I guess, is best to say that we motivate our gente to get involved as well with these issues is educating. At the end of the day, education is the one thing they can't take from us. The education that you have, you're going to have forever, and you continue learning. And I think, overall, education is a way to get people involved, and what motivates me is wanting to see change for my gente, an opportunity.
Well, my reason of being involved kind of goes based on a personal experience. In 2016, a lot of people don't realize, but President Donald Trump went to Orange County, and he was literally where he was speaking was right across from my community college, and I suffered one of the worst experiences of my life. I was discriminated, I was called names, I was called like a dirty immigrant to go back to my country, that I can't speak Spanish, and it was just like something that really reflected on my life. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. Because for my entire life, I lived this whole innocence, that this world was, this country was perfect, and it wasn't until, it wasn't until that experience where I saw so many people be hateful, being antagonized by so many people, that I really was enough is enough, and change has to happen. And now, my whole thing about doing change is having that open dialogue. I think it's important for youth, especially communities of color youth, to have that sense where they could speak at the table. Because I feel that people of color oftentimes don't get the opportunities that other people have. And it is important to carry that dialogue and seeing that they have that opportunity to grow from. Because my whole entire life, I never saw someone in a position of power that I could see that person looks like me. And now I hope to be that sense of empowerment for my community, especially from my Latino community, where it's one of the most lowest income city in Orange County, that could be, you have a strong Latina representing you in every level, and I hope you could be able to take from my pain and my strength, that I'm gonna carry my Latino pride with me, and making sure that people take Latinos more seriously.
So one of the reasons I ended up getting involved, I worked at a law firm when I was 15. I was born and raised in Sacramento, and I started working at a law firm when I was 15 years old, and had been sexually harassed started about 9 years old, by street harassment, and continued to get that as I got older, and was actually harassed at work by one of my supervisors when I was 15. And thought it was kind of commonplace, for sexual harassment to just happen while you're at work. And it quite honestly really infuriated me. And I was like, this is not okay that this is my first experience to have at my first job. So I ended up moving, and as soon as I moved, I went to 15 all through high school. I still worked there. When I got to college, I was sexually assaulted on my college campus and expected the system to support me as a student and as a scholarship student. And that is not what happened. There was no support from the establishment, and it ended up being swept under the rug. And again, I was filled with rage. So I ended up leaving the school and then becoming an advocate for sexual assault survivors and harassment survivors, and ended up going back into the legal field trying to do prosecution. And then I was like, that is not what I want to be doing. I want to be helping survivors. So I ended up getting the job at Weave, and now I work with our youth, and I teach our youth about gender socialization, and that being a woman doesn't mean you have to fit all these different boxes, and neither does being a man you have to fit all these different boxes. Recognizing my privilege also and using that has been something that I've learned to do. I am white passing, I'm half Mexican, half Native actually. And so recognizing the fact that I can actually use this white passing privilege in order to speak for communities, and to use that, because like you have said, there is not enough of that. And being able to recognize that there isn't and do something with the privilege that I do have has been something that I've been really passionate about as well. So that's why I'm involved. I want to create a safer space for our young women and our young men.
Why am I, sorry. I'm involved because of the things I see go on in the U.S., especially for people of color, Black people in general. I mean, in specific, we see the shootings and just like you said, the school to prison pipeline, and I just feel like, for me, I have 2 little brothers, and I see that Black men are, there's severely disproportionate rates of, Black men being incarcerated and being shot by the police, and I don't want that to happen to them, of course. So I do all I can so that I can create change in my community, so that doesn't happen to them. And also, what motivates me is my parents, my family. I think that's like one of the main things that keeps me going, is because they're always behind me, pushing me to keep doing what I'm doing. And yeah, I agree with all you guys.
Thank you, and I have a few more questions, but I'm also going to warn the audience that I'm going to turn it to you, and we're going to take some questions from the audience as well. So through the next few moments, maybe think about what you can ask this wonderful brain trust of young women while they're all here before us. My next question is, I worked on my first campaign when I was in 2006, and so I was actually skipping class to go knock on doors. I know, I still have my truancy nose, which is so ironic, given my current position. That being said, it doesn't get easier. Sometimes it gets harder, and you're all organizers here, whether or not you identify yourself or that's what's on the business card or on your name tag, you're an organizer. So what can you explain to us what one of your biggest challenges as an organizer is?
Well, again, I don't have really an organization. I do go to high school, if you consider that an organization. I'm a student, that's kind of like my job. And going to St. Francis specifically, Catholic high school, they have a lot of restrictions on clothing, how you act. It's when you're a Truby on campus, you're a Truby off campus. St. Francis has slut-shamed students, has limited access to reproductive care, and actually look down on students who use reproductive care or turn to that. Yeah. So it's a long list of things. I lost my point.
No, it's just one of your biggest challenges?
Yes, that is the challenge. That is the challenge. It's just like, I don't know, you as a woman, and specifically a young woman, you want to be supported with those things, and you want to feel like you can speak on it and be open. And specifically in a school community, it's hard when your teachers and the people who are giving you an education look down on you for things that you deem necessary. So, yeah.
Don't give up. You got this, girl. I think as an organizer, there's a lot of challenges that come with being an organizer, especially like being someone that is considered a minority. I think one of the biggest challenges I faced in the last 4 years of like consistent activism, definitely racism has to be one of them. If I had $1 for any time I've been told go back to your country or learn speaking Spanish in a store with my parents or something, it's like, learn the language. Simple things like that. I think it gets to the point where it becomes normalized. Mm-hmm. We hear it so much that it becomes so common. At first, it hurts, and eventually you just get used to it. And I think that's a big issue because it shouldn't be normalized. Yeah. It's something that happens so often. You see it so much more in the media now, but it's not okay. So I think that's a very difficult challenge, but also people getting discouraged because of it, which is, I think it's very imperative as an organizer that when these things hit you, these obstacles come, that you take action in the adequate manner, in the way that you still stand up, you still go forth, and you still do what you have to do to get where you gotta go and do what you gotta do. And I think it's just making sure that when you're motivating others and empowering others, that they can see the role model that's not giving up, and it gets them to keep doing. And it's like like our other panelists said it, age of 10, age of 24, that's how you keep the youth going. They look up to it. So I think just keeping people motivated is a challenge itself.
For me, there's two big challenges that March for Our Lives, whether it's the state organization or the national organization, goes through. One of the biggest issues is the whole aspect of youth. Many people don't take youth seriously. Many people say that you should wait your turn. There's so much yet to go, like so on. And my biggest response to that is there might not be no tomorrow. We're literally in a 10-year span we were given by the environment. So our turn is right now, because if we don't start taking actions right now, our future, there's not gonna be no future for the youth. And it is important for people to start taking us into consideration, because we are the ones that are gonna be most negatively impacted due to everything that is happening right now in our current present. Another issue for me on a personal level is the whole aspect of colorism. Something that I really have seen, whether it goes on just things locally to on a national level, is that there's not enough representation. You could go based on the whole discussion that oftentimes we're getting more people of color into positions of power, which is great, but oftentimes people don't realize that we get Latinos or we get other communities and they tend to be on the lighter skin. And that is oftentimes extremely hard, being a darker skinned Latina or just being a person of color that's a little bit darker, being able to see someone that looks like you, but you don't see no one that looks like you. So it's like, how could you expect me to do something with my life if I don't really have that sense of empowerment when I go and see something outside? So it's really important to take that initiative and adding more people of color to say we need to make a change so we could have our future be changed and more people have that sense of opportunity where they could do something more with their lives.
Thank you. One of the biggest challenges that I faced has definitely still been my age. I have spoken in front of Senate members, Assembly members, the city of Sacramento, the state of California, different people in power. And I've heard people say, before I give a 2-hour training on child sexual assault prevention, people say, "You're so young, what could you possibly know that I don't already know?" Yeah. A lot. But so that is a big challenge. It's definitely being a youth and being taken seriously is a pretty big problem. And then as well, just being a woman, being taken seriously as a woman and talking about the severity of sexual violence against women and gender-based violence. It is still a huge problem. I work with 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds who can tell me the difference between a boy and a girl, and tell me that a girl is supposed to be pretty and well behaved, and a boy can be whatever they want to be, and they don't have to be well behaved, you know. And when you think of a hero, what does that mean? And it's usually a boy, and you know, they still are being socialized at a very young age, which is a challenge when it comes to talking about things like sexual violence and gender-based violence, and making sure that we're reaching more towards that equality and pushing for that. It's hard, man. It's very hard. So those are some of the challenges that I've faced.
One of the, actually, I feel like my main challenge is being a woman or a young girl of color in the U.S. I often feel like people don't hear me because of the way I look on the outside, and that's something that gets to me all the time. So whether I'm in school and I'm, you know, trying to advocate for my other students of color, sometimes I feel like the admin won't understand me. And even then, there's not really teachers that look like me at my school. And like I said before, representation is important. And like you said, how do you expect me to do something with my life if there's no one that looks like me? You know, doing something in a higher position or in the higher positions. So that's, you know, it's hard when you don't see people that look like you, and like seeing all of you guys and, you know, Miss Tracy, you know, doing what she does is very motivating, and it keeps me going.
And then another point, if I could add, going off Trinity saying another challenge is like being a young woman and being a young Black woman, or just youth in general. It's really hard to like be heard. And speaking of which, the city of Sacramento had developed a creative edge plan which would allow for cultural equity and intended to fund diversity in the arts. I'm a really big advocate for the arts because it doesn't have much representation, and it's a really good way of expression no matter who you are, where you come from, like gender. Like, I think that is a really good outlet, and it gets the youth involved and excited. So I just think it's ridiculous that they would cut the funding for that plan, because that is how you get the young people involved, and that's how young people get heard. Because through things such as fashion shows, art galleries, etc., the youth is fundraising, the youth is spreading awareness. Like, the young people are working for the young people to be heard, and that's the experience that the youth needs in order to motivate, progress society, so on and so forth.
Thank you, and I do have one more very important question, but I'm going to leave it to the end to close out, and we're going to turn it to questions from the audience. I think we only have one mic, right? Do you want me to kind of, okay, all right. No, I can Vanna White it. Well, we're good. Yes, I did watch that show. I do watch that show. It's still on.
Hi, they're all very impressive. My biggest concern is actually climate change. And y'all are going to be suffering the consequences of my generations and before's inaction. When are you going to band together, all of you, and do a walkout like that student in Sweden did? I think it was Sweden, yeah. Like a Friday, you know, for climate justice, because so anyway, that's my deal, is you aren't going to have a world to, you know, grow old in like I have had.
I'm not going to force anyone to answer questions, so if you want to, just raise your hand and I'll give you a mic. All right.
I could speak from experience that at least in March for Our Lives, we have a lot of youth that care about climate change. That's one of the most important things, because we recognize that that's like our future. If we don't change it, like we don't start taking actions right now, that's gonna be like the worst thing that's gonna happen for our generation. I know that a lot of our youth are working with national groups in organizing something on a state level. So we're working on, that's something that we're working upon. I know that I'm getting in touch because we have the cool part about March for Our Lives is that they have a lot of like just like they work with different organizations, and one of them has to do a lot with climate change. So we're hoping to like establish a sense of collaboration where we could have something walk routes all around the country where people could start taking youth importance, because like it's like if you don't start taking action, our legislators are not going to care. We need to make sure that they understand that this is something that's important to us and that's something that's going to impact us. So we're working on a plan where we could also send letters to our legislators. We're creating an email chain so people could email. So we're really working on taking that stance where we tell people enough is enough and change has to come right now. Yeah.
So I definitely think climate change is really important, specifically like my friends too as well. But on the other hand, like I've talked a lot today about like the youth getting involved more and being heard more. And to even initiate like climate change, like people of all like genders, all races, all ages, like first we have to band that together before we can even like get into climate change, because there's still so many like divisions with race and I don't know. I mean, we could still talk about climate change now, obviously, but I feel like we just have to band together as people first before we can advocate. Because if we can't advocate for each other, how can we like advocate for the planet, you know?
Well, that's the one thing that you all have in common.
That's true.
That is the one thing that you're all of your children. If you ever get the opportunity to have children, you know, they're going to live in a much different place.
Yep.
Even than you.
Here, we'll go ahead and just give everyone.
I'll take that.
Okay.
Okay.
You want to go?
No, you go. Yeah.
And they won't listen to me.
So,
You know, it's like,
yeah. So as someone that I work with the California Public Utilities Commission, and from what I can say, you know, I can't say much specifically, non-disclosure agreement, but there's a lot of projects coming with the state at the moment, AB 617 being one of them. It's focused on air pollution and like electrification projects across the state. You know, our Governor Newsom, he has a lot of projects that he wants to get in, definitely that it's going to help a lot with our climate change. So California currently, you can feel that they are starting to work hard on it. But definitely also another thing we're trying to implement is getting ways to get our youth involved as well, whether it's like visiting or doing things like that. So we're putting an effort to get all ages involved.
I would say another big thing is changing that culture. We live in a very wasteful culture in America. And so part of that, you know, we work with the youth. I'm in a lot of the schools in Sacramento County at least, and there are a lot of initiatives like not using certain plastics and straws and all that kind of thing. So I think accountability, not only of yourself, but of others and pretty much anyone that you know, holding people accountable as well as part of that, making people feel bad if they litter, you know, and if they're using straws, you know, like making people feel like it's not okay, right, to waste or to use things like that and to be not take accountability, you know, to keep those people accountable is a huge part in getting them to be a part of the movement as well. I know when we first started the no bags in a lot of the stores, and then also the no straw shift, it helped me to be held accountable too. I would post a picture and my aunt, who's very much a pro-green person, would be like, hey, why do you have a straw in that picture? And I'd be like, oh shoot. Social media, everyone's watching, right? So holding each other accountable is a really big part of it too.
Do you want to add something?
You're good. Okay. All right. Go over here. And then just a small plug, I just actually bought a reusable straw.
Woo!
And my mom used it, which I thought she would never do, and I'll show you that later if you want. But it's plastic water bottles.
Yeah.
Hi.
Mason jars work.
You are of a generation that's been raised with social media, something that growing up was, you know, we would never imagine 24 hours a day people would be advertising about their lives. And I think it's a real two-edged sword, so I'm wondering, it seems like, as an older person, social media, the buzz on top, are people basically really behaving badly? And that's what we hear about a lot more than people that are awesome. like all of you. So do you feel sometimes you have to get through like the stereotypes and the other things that a lot of time people go, well, we know all about young women because we, you know, how do you feel that the social media, do you feel like you have to fight against it to get your true authentic voice out there to hear?
There's a little bit of interest from everybody. So, Trinity, is that okay if we start with you this way? Okay, sounds good. And then you ladies can just pass it on.
So I don't have social media. My parents don't allow me because they don't want me to. Shout out to you, Mom. But they don't allow me to be on it because of the negative stuff on it and what, you know, how it can distract me from where I need to go and where I need to be. But I do see around me how it affects my other, you know, my peers. And yes, you know, it's hard. And I'm starting to forget your question. It's about stereotypes, right? Okay. Yeah, it is. I can see that it affects them, and it is hard. And you know, what I tell them is, you know, take a break from it. Like, stop. You don't need to worry about what other people think about you. And yeah, so.
So I know I'm still young, I'm only 24, but when I was in high school, Instagram and all that was like just starting to become a thing, and now I work with our teenagers who it is everything. So it is a little different that even just, 6 years or so since I've been in high school, it's shifted significantly. There are some really positive things coming from like an organizer perspective, and being someone who wants to get a message out to a big number of people. That is a great platform to do that. It's a great way to get people involved. From a personal perspective, it is a very dangerous tool, something that can be used to continue these stereotypes and continue these challenges. Having friends post, oh, my life is so wonderful all the time, is damaging because life is not wonderful all the time, right? And portraying yourself on social media and the images that you see on social media and what people know will get more likes is usually damaging and continues these really dangerous stereotypes, like the sexualization of women, like using race, you know, as a tool to get things done, and cultural appropriation, and like all of these different things that are very hot topics on social media are very damaging a lot of the times. But from an organizer perspective, it's a great tool to get your message out.
For me, I think the biggest thing is how you use your time. I think it's the biggest thing within it, because just speaking from March for Our Lives California, we have a base of 100,000 followers in general. So we reach out to like a big crowd when it comes to talking about events we're doing on a state level. When it comes to like things that are happening on a national level, we had direct connection with our national team. So we literally like have them like at times like message out stuff regarding initiatives that we're doing on a state by state level. So I think it's really important just using it for positivity. Like I could talk from my own personal experience. Now everything I post is regarding something that I'm doing. And that is to send a message of like, I'm doing this event, I need you to know this is important, this is affecting the community, and that's the end of it. Like, and I think it's being able to utilize your social media in a positive way to be able to send out a positive message, which oftentimes is portrayed. I love social media, I'll be honest. I think it's a better way to like spreading out your message, because I think there's been a lot of initiatives that we post things on social media, and then out of nowhere, like a call start getting sent to like our legislators, things start happening. And that's because that's how amazing social media could be. If you use your presence in a positive way, it's reflective upon your own community. So it really is dependent upon each person and how each person utilizes their time and how they utilize what they have in order to send out a message that they want to send out.
Yes, preach it. Yes, preach it. So personally, from I guess my personal perspective on social media and how to like break out of stereotypes, it's definitely you have this platform and taking advantage of it in any way you can. Do I like the whole idea of our generation using social media for everything and it being like the main idea? No, I don't even like my nieces using the phones. I feel like it takes away from that personal interaction, the personal networking that you can do while going out and, socializing. Yes, it's a very useful tool to get messages out, but I feel like we can also do a better effort as a community in general to get together more and not just be hanging out and just on our phones together. It's very common. But breaking out the stereotypes, I think, the social media, there are stereotypes. You see it as our other panelists, were saying, women being sexualized or a lot of stereotypical things and cultural appropriation. But definitely just taking advantage of the platform and using it to inform our people, even if it's not the way where you can directly inform them. It's for, there's events in the public where people go, and there's also events where people don't go, but they check it out online. For example, Brown Issues uses Instagram a lot for immigration rights and informational workshops that we have and conferences. So it's just taking advantage of the platform.
So, as someone who does social media a little bit, I'm a teenage girl. I dabble in social media. I think social media has a lot of benefits considering how you use it. Because if you're on social media supporting things that are negative and gross and just you probably know, then you're probably not using it for the right intentions. But social media, however, can also be used as another expression outlet. A lot of people, specifically my friends, post their art on social media. My boyfriend makes clothes. He had a fashion show in Sacramento, and he promoted on there. And I think social media, because you choose who you follow. And if you choose to follow something that's negative, that's you giving in to that temptation. If you're choosing to follow something positive where someone's expressing themselves and sharing their talents or abilities or their workout plan, then that's positive. But I also don't think someone should just have their face in their phone the whole day with their friends. So.
For sure.
Okay, we don't have time for one more question. Wait, can I ask the question that I wanted to ask? Okay. Oh, perfect. So, very, very important. When will you run for office, and what office are you running for?
I don't want to run for office, but I do want to go to law school. So I'm really working towards that right now.
All right, I know Cynthia knows this because she knows what my goal is ultimately. So ultimately, my goal is to be a senator of California someday, hopefully. But as of right now, my focus is networking, so I can, hopefully run for school board or city council within the next few years. So bravo for 20-something.
20-something. For me, I don't think I'm ever gonna run, but something that I take a lot of pride in is international affairs. I do want to do stuff on an international level. So whether it's working with the State Department or the UN, specifically in Latin American affairs, being a person that's gone a lot to Latin America and studied Latin America, I feel that oftentimes we dissuade upon what's happening right next to us, and it's really important to put a sense of emphasis because they're our neighbors. And being Latina, I take pride where I come from. So my whole goal is giving back to my community, and the best way to do that is doing international affairs issues where I could be able to make changes on an international level that would possibly impact my community.
So I'm not sure about my future yet. I was a political science major, so I do love policy. And I would like to maybe potentially lobby. I've dabbled in it a little bit and enjoyed it and geek out as soon as I get to go to the Capitol. So it is probably in my future. But right now I'm really focused. I love working with survivors and people in trauma. And being able to take, a terrible experience that happened to me and now go and hopefully prevent things from happening to other people. And trying to change our culture, from the inside out, and trying to be there to support the people that are hurting in our communities is really important to me. So that's kind of my focus right now. and stopping harassment in the bars and clubs in Sacramento, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'll probably end up doing something in policy.
So I don't know if I want to be in an office, but I do want to be in the medical field, and I did tell my mom to be Surgeon General. Specifically under a woman of color. So in an office, of course. But it's possible that I could be president in some years later because I do law and all of that stuff. So yeah, but most likely Surgeon General. So look out for me.
Trinity, you might know that California just got its first Surgeon General. And I actually have the pleasure, she's a colleague of mine in my day job. So this summer, I'm going to offer you a special invitation to come join us in Videography. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. You were a fantastic panel. Can we have another round of applause?
So I just want to say one thing, and I don't know if I'm speaking on behalf of maybe more than just myself, but one thing I really realized was I had a lot of support from people in my life who encouraged me when I was younger. My mom is an amazing person who did a lot for me and is an amazing Dem, and she's fantastic. And I was able to have a lot of support from people like you who showed up for me and supported my goals and all of my opinions that I had when I was at St. Francis High School. And even though I didn't have a space to say stuff, I still said it. And I was empowered. And I don't know about all of you, but just thank you for listening to us and hearing our voices and making a space for this too. It's incredibly important for us. I know. I mean, at least I feel that way. Yeah.
You know, I drove here from the Bay Area to support my granddaughter. All of you, you are women of strength and know that. Yes. Know that. Yes. Thank you.
I just wanted to say that sometimes it's really easy to get depressed or worried or frustrated about what's going on right now, but whenever I hear a bunch of young people, it gives me energy and hope for the future, so thank you.
Thank you guys for having me. I really enjoy being here, especially it's my first time on a panel, so thank you, and I'm looking forward to coming back.
And we do have a youth committee, which I know I've spoken to at least one, maybe two of you about getting involved in. So please stick around. Okay? All right, wonderful. And with that, I believe we will go ahead and adjourn. No more? Nobody else adjourn? Okay, so we are adjourning at actually 7:54.
I just want to say how impressive all of you are. Thank you. I just got elected to the SMUD board, and I'm working on